Okay, life flasks. So life flasks, mana flasks, they work pretty much the same. And we're just gonna run some tests and show exactly how the different modifiers interact. First of all, um, I'm using these flasks, greater life flasks. Not very exciting, but they have to be small for the test to work. We have a basic one with quality, one that's bubbling, and one that's seething. And we'll look at what the effects are. Then we have our diamond flask of dowsing, because we are going to use righteous fire as a convenient way to get our life down. Oh, a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so the only thing that should affect us right now is life flasks. So, um, for instance, this one has this guy 66% reduced amount recovered, but it should give us 147 life. We're at 1501. We eat the flask. Oh, need to click in the window. We're at 1837. And that's a lot more. We gained about 356 life. And this is how we rig up the tests. So let's go to the beginning. And we are going to lose some life. We're going to get rid of our flask. We go back up to 1501. And let's talk about the basic flask. So this is 360 life. In reality, we get a whole lot more. Yeah, we get 1446 life, which means this quality version, I don't have enough life to test it, but it's 20% more. That's about 4 times as much. And the reason for that is we have a whole bunch of things that have affected. First off, duration. Second, amount. And third, effective flasks. All these are individual multipliers. So let's take a quick look at the passive tree. We have these guys. Oh, this is a bad way with the camera ending it being there. It should be good. This guy gives 30% increased life recovery from flasks. This is all added together and multiply it out. We also have duration. Duration down here. So the longer a life flask lasts, the more life you get out of it. And then the last thing is the effective flask. So this guy has duration and flask applied to you have 10% increased effect. That means all your increased effect is grouped together and multiplied again. Right? In my case, I have a duration of 65, an amount of 70, and I have an effective flask of 43, which multiplies out to about a times 4 multiplier. So I get 4 times as much life out of that flasks compared to normal flasks, or compared to not having these modifiers. There's also this guy, increased life recovery rate from flasks. Alright, this, the biggest thing, the second one, 20% flask recovery rate. The increased life recovery from flasks, that's added with all the other ones, multiplied in. Increased flask recovery rate just makes it go faster. It doesn't do anything else. Alright, so my tree for this, the flask nodes up here, the flask nodes over here, down here, and over here, this guy, and this guy. And my passives on the ascendancy are just these two. Alright. Um, so yeah, how much life do we get out of things? Because some of it's a little bit unclear, right? This guy is reduced amount recovered and then increased recovery rate. And this guy is reduced amount recovered and then increased recovery rate. So there's a couple of interesting things which is different from utility flasks. First of all, these are local modifiers. With utility flasks, they're not. If you have things that increase effect, reduce effect, that's all added together, right? So my recovery, right, which is I have like a 70% amount recovered, that doesn't cancel out the 66 reduced. So the 66 reduced is a local modifier, like physical damage on a weapon, and then my skill tree is a global modifier. So that's unfortunate, right? Otherwise, these stats would be way more useful. So let's lose some life again. We're going to W 1500. All right. So what do we get out of our bubbling? Our bubbling, you have the initial increase and then more over time. And what you find is that we get in total about 700 life, 699, compared to the 216 that we should expect. So that's a times 3 multiplier, a little bit more. But in reality, it's a little different. The first part, the immediate, actually has a times 2 multiplier, 2.4. And the second part has a times 4 multiplier. And that together gets you to a 3.2 multiplier. Just with these nodes I have. Right, so you get a lot of life even at these low level flasks. Mana, of course, works the same as life. The same type of modifiers. Just hard to test. Alright, so take a look at the next guy. W. Yeah. Alright. One moment. So this guy, we expect 147. In reality, we get, oh, wrong one, about 356. So that's a times 2.4 multiplier. The reason for this is that these instantaneous effects do not care about duration, right? It's just amount and effective flasks. So if you are trying to get instant flasks to scale up, it's about effective flasks and the amount of life or amount of mana you recover. But once you have a duration component, then the duration multiplies into it. Also, quality is a local modifier. It multiplies with everything else. It's just different. Now it's the same as weapons, but it's different than utility flasks. So yeah, what that means is you can get an insane amount of mana out of a flask, right? You can get 4 times, relatively easily, what's written on the bottle. Which I've used in the past to sustain Righteous Fire. Because, I mean, it stays up. You can have the bubbling flasks, I think they are, that just keep on going. And you get an amazing amount of mana. For life flasks, quite often when you have a Pathfinder, right, because you have, even on like the pretty crappy ones that I use here, like the seating flask, I still have a times 2.4 multiplier. So is it worth using an instant flask? I mean, chances are it will just fill you up. Same for bubbling. So, yeah. It usually doesn't matter a whole lot. um, just because of how much life you get out of them. And even with the big flasks, just because your rate is so high, right? These guys are 360 over 7 seconds. You can get, I don't know, let's look at this flask real quick. This guy, it's a level 50 flask. 1400 over 3. So half the time, 3 times the payload, 4 times the payload. So it's times 8. Yeah, chances are this flask will fill me up in a very small amount of time without anything going on. So, sub-second. So, yeah. Instant flasks, very, very, very potent just because of all the multipliers. And your ability to gain absurd amounts of mana is pretty good. But you have to be keep in mind that the way it works is very different from the utility flasks. It has local modifiers, right? It doesn't add things together. So this guy, which has 50% reduced amount recovered, this is not added with my amount of life recovered. And half of it recovered instantly is computed on the flasks, so my duration doesn't affect it. Right? It really is doing all the math locally before your modifiers go into effect. So yeah, that's life and mana flasks. When you play Pathfinder, you'll find that upgrading them, you can wait a long time. Right? 3000 life pool, and this guy is still relevant. And this is losing life. Can almost cancel it out just with level 12 flasks. Not bad. But if you just need something to hit in a panic, you know, these things, it's a chunk of life. These guys, as soon as they have duration, they top you off pretty quickly. And this is a pretty absurd example with 3000 life versus a 12 level flask. In reality, you have plenty of life recovery. So it's really more about mana recovery. Works the same, just hard to test. So use life flasks. That's it. Enjoy. I'm gonna get to chaos.